DTM drivers as well. So hot is the tarmac, it really is blooming warm. And here comes the way it looks on the grid then. René Rast, pole position, alongside him is Thomas Preining, then it's Sheldon van der Linde and Lauren Heinrich. They go from P3 and P4 to the third row of the grid, where we find Ian Chang Guven and Mirko Bortolotti. Mirko could be a danger man from P6 on the grid, you know. So too could Dennis Olsen and Lucas Stolz, showing great pace yesterday. They go from P7 and P8. Kelvin van der Linde will be hoping to right the wrongs of yesterday. Today, P9, and Frank Pereira alongside is P10. Marco Wittmann for Project 1, P11, and Christian Engelhardt going from P12. They are ahead of the seventh row, which is Clement Schmidt and Ricardo Feller, occupying positions 13 and 14. Josef Oega and Lucas Auer from P15 and P16. To the ninth row of the grid, where we find Arjun Maini and Maro Engel right alongside. P20 and P19. It's Tim Heinemann is P19, Luca Engstler is P20. And then we find David Schumacher and Mattia Drudi ahead of the 12th row of the grid, which is where we head right now. Patrick Niederhauser and Mick Wieselfer, they are P23 and 24. 25 and 26 belong to Thierry Vermeulen and Jack Aitken in the two Ferraris, with Alessio Deletta P27. And P1 in our eyes always, Verena.
And I'm here with Lukas Stolz, who's starting in P8, best Mercedes. It's going to be such a tough race. I mean, obviously the heat is, for everybody, it's the same condition. But how tough will it be, especially since you're in the middle of the field, kind of?
Yeah, really tough. Yesterday I didn't do a great start, so I'll try to do this better today. But yeah, actually looking forward to the race.
And in regards to the Norisring, it's such a challenging racetrack. What are you focusing on the most? Surviving the first corner?
Surviving the first corner, then getting into a nice rhythm, and yeah, staying away from the walls.
Absolutely. I mean, Norisring is famous for kissing the walls, which is, everyone always says Norisring is so unforgiving, but that's exactly what it's about, right?
Yeah, luckily this morning I only had a small touch, which you can see on the car, but still looks all right. The car's in good shape, and yeah, just looking forward to the race.
All right, off you go into the shadow for just a few minutes. Thank you so much, Luca. And we're going to try to find Kelvin van der Linde, who was very unlucky yesterday, obviously. I mean, he was really on a good way, maybe even for a podium, and then his race had to end. So today he's starting in P9, and as we can see, he's got a smile in his face. So hopefully today is a better day than yesterday, and starting from P9, I mean, you can really push forward.
Yeah, we changed the steering wheel now, so hopefully it works. Obviously, yesterday's behind us, today's a new day. P9 is not the best, but we'll definitely fight forward.
You buried the monkey from your back, that's for sure. We had a conversation with your brother yesterday, and that was really, let's forget yesterday. Norisring, it's hot, it's tricky, it's challenging. What are you going to make out of it, and what are you focusing on the most?
I'm hoping a couple of these guys in front are going to get nervous and make a few mistakes. That's what I'm betting on. But otherwise, I've got a great group of guys in the strategy box. They'll probably get me through after the pit stop. So we'll see. The car seems to be quick in race pace, so hopefully we can move forward.
Well, best of luck. Fingers are crossed. Thank you so much. And now let's see if we can. I'm going to go this way. Camera can go the other way. We're going to try to find Marco Wittmann, who's in P11, and I'm seeing the thumbs up. So here we go. I can see him. And once again, Marco is all cool, sipping on his water. It's probably ice water, I'm assuming, and he's got his umbrella and he's all cool. Marco, looking cool as ever. Sorry, just let me butt in here quickly. You always seem so cool, but obviously the race is a whole different story. It's going to probably be tough from P11, but this is your home race. You're the hero. What are you going to make out of this race today, Marco?
At least I try to make the most out of it. I mean, yesterday we also gained quite a few spots and finished in the top 10. So today, starting on P11, let's see. We all know that the races can be very chaotic. You need to stay out of trouble, and that will be the main goal. And then we see if we can move up some positions.
It's really, yesterday was a jungle out here in regards to the accidents, but also to the heat. And let's just give a shout out to all the fans. You've got so many fans here at the Norisring, and them sitting there in the heat. That's incredible, isn't it? How they're supporting you and all of us?
Yeah, it's incredible. The atmosphere, the vibe here at the Norisring is just unique. It's just amazing to see all the people around here cheering for me, supporting me, especially with the green wall, with the Scheffler people. It's just great, you know, to have such a support. I'm very proud of this and obviously enjoying every single minute.
And one last question in regards to you living down the street from here, but is this actually your favorite racetrack in the calendar?
Well, if I win, yes.
All right, well, fingers are crossed. Thank you so much. And we're getting excited because we're about to get racing. And now, hold on tight. And here are your commentators.
Thank you so much, Verena. As Marco says, it will be his favourite place if he wins. I think it is anyway, if I'm honest with you. He loves it here, and so do tens of thousands of people that are here as part of this wonderful, wonderful festival that we have once a year, every year, at the Norisring, a truly amazing circuit where pretty much all the infrastructure has to be brought in to enable this to race. Public roads, of course, ordinarily, but for this weekend it becomes something oh so special. The Norisring never tire of coming here, and it has even more emotions, I guess, when it's as hot as it is. And I have to say, as Lauren Heinrich then is in final stages of preparation before getting in the car will be sauna-like. Because the ambient temperature is very, very high. Alongside me is Brian Oliver, who's been drafted in, and a huge DTM enthusiast. Go on, give me your best meteorological voice. Where are we at now? 30 degrees?
33.2 degrees, Dave. The track is up to 40.3, and it is still climbing. Just walking across the grounds here earlier on, and it is so hot. In the cars, we reckon they're going to be 60+ degrees. These drivers are absolute athletes. They've got to be fit. I'm told there are air conditioning in some of the cars, but I can't imagine you'd want to use that because it's going to use power up.
Well, I have to say, I'm not sure you could do without it. Mirko Bortolotti then climbing into his Lamborghini from SSR Performance. And Mirko Bortolotti, I said when we were doing our grid rundown how he could be a danger man from where he is on the grid, and I really do think that is the case. One thing about the DTM is the form guide from yesterday won't necessarily give us any indication as to what is going to happen today. After saying that, René Rast is on pole position. Thomas Preining, of course, is alongside him. We look at Jack Aitken, then the Ferrari 296 GT3 driver from Emil Frey Racing. They've had a tough time of it this weekend, principally brought about by balance of performance. Emil Frey are a super team, and they know how to engineer a very, very successful car and driver combo. But they've had their work cut out this weekend. Marco Wittmann, then, as we have mentioned, is the local star from Fort, just down the road here from Nuremberg, and he's engineered by the Project One team. And Marco Wittmann then hoping to do good things. I have to say his start yesterday was superb. He vaulted several places right in the opening lap, did Marco Wittmann, so he'll be hoping to do the same again today because qualifying has not probably gone quite the way that he would have liked it to. When we flew out here, I said to Brian alongside me that this place is something very, very special indeed, and I think that that has been proven. We're about to see another awesome DTM race. It is the second of the two races this weekend. Welcome to the Norisring, and welcome to the DTM live this afternoon. What a backdrop. The cityscape of Nuremberg behind us with the mix of contemporary and historic architecture that you can see in one frame there. And, well, the history of this place is something special indeed, and so is the race action. Let's take a look at the track facts, and we'll give you some glimpses of what can happen across this 2.1 kilometer circuit. For example, back in 2022, a safety car is always a possibility when the Grundig turn turns into something of a car park. Through the Scholler S's we go and head towards the next turn, which is where Kelvin van der Linde crashed his title hopes back in 2021. He'll be hoping for better luck today. He certainly didn't have it yesterday. We'll see if today is a new day. Last year, it was the first ever Porsche victory in DTM, and I was very proud to be able to call that one back in 2022, just a year ago. So that is the Norisring. DTM been here since 1984, and long may it continue. 33.2 degrees, the air temperature, track temperature 40.2. It's dry. Quelle surprise. And that's the way the weather looks, that's the way the grid looks. I was saying that I was extolling the virtues of this place, Norisring, to Brian Oliver alongside me. Go on, tell me that you're unimpressed by it.
Not even remotely an incredible place.
Good. It's Rast and Preining on the front row of the grid. It's Sheldon van der Linde and Lauren Heinrich on the next row, ahead of Ayang Chang Guven and Mirko Bortolotti. Then to row 4 of 14, Dennis Olsen and Lucas Stoltz. They go from P7 and P8. And P9 for Kelvin van der Linde. Watch him into turn number 1. Frank Pereira is alongside him. Marco Wittmann and Christian Engelhardt. Marco Wittmann being buoyed by tens of thousands of his personal fans here this weekend. Clemens Schmidt and Ricardo Feller. They're P13 and P14. Yusuf Ovega and Lucas Auer, then P15 and 16. Of course, long race in prospect. 1 hour plus 1 lap. Arjun Maini and Maro Engel from P17 and P18 over the race duration will hope to vault themselves further up the order. Tim Heinemann and Luca Engsler, 2 young whippersnappers there to 19 and 20. That's their grid position rather than age. David Schumacher and Mattia Drudi are the next row with Patrick Niederhauser and Mick Wieshofer. And then Thierry Vermeulen and Jack Aiken, the 2 Emil Frey Ferraris together there. And it's Alessio Dallada with the SSR Performance Lamborghini going from P27 on the grid. Scene is set then, as you can see, and the start has been delayed. My legalese alongside me will focus on the message screen now to ascertain why the start has been delayed. I should think to put... that's the reason why. We have 1 or 2 protesters who feel that they will further their cause by annoying some people. Well, there we are. Swiftly dealt with by 1 or 2, and I suspect there'll be some cheers from the crowd as well. So we just let that uncover itself and get itself sorted out. I have to say, slightly funny story from this weekend is both Brian and I were really not impressed with a hooligan behavior in Nuremberg. One particular individual with a particularly noisy motorcycle who felt it would be great to pretend he was a stunt rider and then suddenly realised that he'd run out of talent and bit the dust. No harm done, it has to be said, but nonetheless, it's just sometimes you think karma does work, doesn't it, Brian?
It does. That was a great night out in Nuremberg. We were looking at the beautiful architecture of this amazing city, yes, and a bit of a plonker in the shorts and T-shirts doing the wheelies up the middle of the road, annoying everybody, and needless to say, ended up horizontal. The city is absolutely beautiful, though, and absolutely packed out with spectators. The culture, as you already said, a clash of the old and the new. So much history and some modern structure in there as well. It's a wonderful setting for a street race. I have never been anywhere like it. It's my first visit to Norisring, and it is mind-blowing. The circuit is mind-blowing. It's also incredibly tight because those concrete walls run all the way round, and we've seen in some of the other racing this weekend, they don't move.
No, there's not much flexibility when it comes to the Armco barriers and also the concrete as well. Equally, Sven Stopper, the race director, doesn't have too many problems with track limits here. Interesting, that, isn't it? It's something that's discussed so many times in motorsport, but track limits do not become a problem when they're an immovable object, funnily enough. Going from pole position is René Rast then for Schubert Motorsport, the BMW M4 GT3. Now, what was really interesting is because qualifying had to be split for this weekend, so they were going Group A and Group B, so 2 separate groups. It was always felt that the second group would always get the best times. Wasn't the case today, was it?
No, they didn't count on René Rast, really, did they? I mean, he's done a fair few laps around this street circuit over the years, and he was very rapid. He went in Group 1 when the track was, in theory, slower. But the Group 2 runners, they got close, but they couldn't get anywhere near him. The 2 drivers starting at the front of the grid, René Rast and Thomas Preining, have been on form all weekend, but Sheldon van der Linde starting from 3rd. He was yesterday's winner. Don't forget that he has a success penalty, so he's carrying 20 kilos extra in that BMW. He didn't have that for qualifying. That might hamper him. Keep an eye on Lauren Heinrich as well. He's got a point to prove because he hasn't had the start to the season that he wants. It's a 7th place in the season over at Oschersleben is the best he's had so far. He's got his eyes on a podium.
Well, some ballast has been removed from around the circuit then to enable us to enjoy the sport that we love. And that, of course, is the DTM in terms of motor racing. So just the final clear-up operation from that little incident. And here you can see from that camera up there, the track sweeper is out there making sure that any detritus that's been left by them is cleared up. Verena, good afternoon.
And I'm here with Hans Bernd Kams from Project One. And Hans Bernd, we just heard about the issue why it's being delayed, the whole race. And what exactly does it mean in regards to the drivers? I mean, they're all sitting in the car. It's way over 33 degrees. They're sitting in the car with their race suits and everything. What does it mean for a driver right now?
It's more difficult now. And the concentration for a race they built up before. So they cool them down, they have a rest before and so on. So there's a clear plan to do this race because it is at the end a very, very professional job what they are doing. So it's not good.
It's not good, and we don't know how long it's going to take. Hopefully not very much longer. But also in regards to, I mean, the tension is already on fire because it's so hot and because the race is about to start. In regards to the nerves, as you mentioned, they're all professional drivers, that's for sure. But all in all, still, I mean, you got to keep your calm now, right?
Yes, concentration is something what you need in the race, and you need the energy, and the energy is going down as warmer it will be, and as more you concentrate on something else or whatever.
So hopefully, I don't know, do you think they have any tricks to keep the drivers a little cool? I mean, they don't have any...
The ones who are very good and have a flexible brain between their ears, I think they can manage it because it happens something. In racing, something happens as well, but it is not nice.
So what are we expecting? What are you expecting for the race, especially it being a little delayed? And then what are you expecting?
All professionals, so they will handle it. I'm 100% sure.
Me too. All right. Hans Bernd Kams, thank you very much. And let's hope the audience here, they're already clapping, hoping that we're going to continue as soon as possible. So let's cross our fingers and back to the commentators.
Great to hear from Hans Bernd Kams, who is the team principal of Project One that runs Marco Wittmann, of course, and have a pyramid to get young talents up into DTM. And as he was saying, it's those drivers with some flexibility between the ears. He's such a great diplomat, is Hans Bernd, wonderful guy. Sheldon van der Linde for Schubert Motorsport. He goes from P3 on the grid, and Sheldon van der Linde, of course, having a awesome day yesterday. It'd be a tall order for him to repeat that today, potentially.
Well, with the success ballast as well. Of course, he came into this morning joint points leader with Thomas Preining, but Thomas Preining having a better run in qualifying. He got 2 points for second on the grid, whereas Sheldon van der Linde only got 1, heaven forbid. So now Preining jumps to the top of the point standings and leads by just 1 point. But Sheldon van der Linde had such a dreadful start to the season at Oschersleben. He has come back fighting. Anybody who thought that he was not a title contender a contender to retain the title, very much mistaken. Sheldon van der Linde back at the front.
Good point made. Mauro Engel has had success, of course, this season, and Mauro Engel is one of those always there, consistent, top racing drivers. Top guy as well is Mauro Engel. Got a lot of time for him, and Lauren Heinrich is well, we've seen him come through the ranks, Brian, really, and racing for the Team 75 Motorsport, with Porsche, where he's been associated for a jolly long time. And I mean, Lauren is a real talent.
Oh, he's a mega talent. He is the outgoing Porsche Carrera Cup Germany champion. Utterly dominated that championship last year. His livery celebrating 75 years of Porsche sport.
Let's go back to Verena, who's basking in the sunshine.
Actually, I found some shade here, as did Ricardo Feller. The first very smart move, getting out of the hot car. I mean, what is it like sitting there now waiting? What's it doing with your nerves?
Well, nothing. I'm actually quite chilled. I have nothing to do now. Yeah, it is what it is. I hope we can go racing soon.
All right, so you're just chilling now, and the focus, as soon as you're back in the car, you'll get focused again.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolutely no problem. Now also the other drivers are getting out of the car. I think it will still take a while, which is very bad, but yeah, what should we do? I just hope that we can race safely afterwards. Yeah, and then we will be happy.
All right, thank you, Ricardo, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Ricardo Feller, then taking shade, and you can see a number of the drivers getting out of their cars now, which I have to say, I thought we were heading in the right direction, but with Thomas Preining there removing his crash helmet and balaclava as well, and his hands device. I'm just wondering whether the positivity that I had is not quite so positive now in terms of us getting this race underway. Of course, for you and I, Brian, apart from the fact that we have a certain appointment to get to, you know, we are in a relatively air-conditioned studio. For the thousands and thousands of spectators here who are sitting out in this sunshine, please, please, please keep hydrated. It's mega frustrating for them because, of course, you want to see the racing, and they're being denied. We're being denied.
Yeah, and I would say that if certain people wish to get people along on their cause, this is not the way to do it, because it's making a number of people hot and bothered on the terraces. We want to go racing, and the drivers are sat there waiting to go. It's a fairly unnecessary delay. Right, well, we've got news. A formation lap is going to start at 13:42 local time, so that is less than 5 minutes. The board there confirming that, so we've not lost too much time there, which is great news. So the 5-minute board has been given. Make that 4 3/4 minutes, and we will be starting the formation lap. The Red Bull, I don't know what you call that truck, but it makes an awful lot of noise, is pulling now off the grid. It's been pumping the tunes all day, keeping everybody occupied in the sunshine.
Yes, its playlist is somewhat narrow for my liking. There's no Nana Muscuri there.
No Earth, Wind and Fire right there.
No, sadly. But there we are, doing its best to entertain the thousands, tens of thousands that are here. So race suits going back on then, and Yusuf Awega, one of those who's getting his BWT race suit zipped up, and then the hands device, the head and neck support will go on. And that, of course, is the flag that everyone is aiming for, the checkered flag, which is being held in front of our pole setter, Rene Rast for Schubert Motorsport, the BMW M4 GT3 driver, of course. Long association with another brand, but in BMW now, and finding his feet, that's for sure. And the door is flapping to keep him cool. Here's Verena once again.
And I'm here with Thomas Voss, the ADAC Motorsport Director. And yeah, unfortunately, it's not what we wanted. It's what we kind of feared, but now it's happening. Do you have any idea how long it might still take? Do you have an update?
I think it will take only a few minutes. Everything has been removed from the commercial side, and the 3-minute sign is in the hands of the race director. So I think it will start in the next 5 minutes.
So hopefully, and in regards to the racing, the drivers I spoke to, they seem to keep their calm, so that's all good. What are you expecting for this race?
It's a very hot race, so sometimes tempers flow a little bit. But I think, as we had yesterday, a very good race, a very interesting race, exciting race, and I hope the same for today.
So do I. Thank you so much. Do enjoy, and back to the commentators.
I had the opportunity to sit down with Thomas Voss on Thursday and had a really interesting chat with him. He's a jolly decent guy. So there you see the KUS Team 75 Ayhan Guven car and driver combination, which is fairly potent, I'm tempted to say. Ayhan then going from P5 on the grid, and we'll see what he can do. He's another driver that's come through the ranks, Brian, and we've talked about for a number of years.
Yeah, I was about to say that very same thing. He's come through Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup. He knows Porsches inside out. A very, very talented driver. The first Turkish driver to win in the GT3 racing in the Porsche series, and looking to make that the case in DTM as well. A really, really talented young pilot.
I'll tell you what, Ricardo, he has got dressed pretty quickly, hasn't he? Just a few moments ago, he was by the barriers, cooling and chilling out, and now he's in the car prepped and ready to go, as indeed is Marco Wittmann for the Project One team. So we're taking a look through the drivers. We look at Jack Aitken here, the Emil Fry Racing driver. Jack Aitken with quite some work to do from his grid position, and Thomas Preining going to be a danger man on the outside of our pole sitter Rene Rast. Thomas Preining retaining the lead of the Drivers' Championship after qualifying today, Brian. So he's gone back to P1 in the points.
Yes, points being paid this year for first, second and third on the grid. So 3 for pole, 2 for second, 1 for third. So the championship actually changing hands without actually turn a racing wheel as such. But that's all going to change after this race. It is incredibly competitive at the top. We have seen different points leaders all the way through the season so far. As the engines fire up, it's all to play for in the DTM in 2023.
Thanks to Thomas Helmer, the former German professional football player, then, for encouraging our drivers to fire up those power plants, ready for us to go racing. Ultimately, for that trophy that you could see between the 2 rows of our DTM cars. That's what they're all targeting and aiming at the end of the season to clasp their hands upon that trophy. Well, The scene is set. The temperature is as red hot as the anticipation, truthfully, of DTM Race 2 of this weekend here at the Norisring. There is our grid of awesome cars and awesome drivers ready to battle on this really rather tight and unforgiving street circuit. The Franconian Monaco is where we are. It is the Norisring. It is DTM, and these are our drivers inside the car. The tension and anticipation is almost palpable, isn't it, as we get the green flag for the formation lap. The Cupra safety car leads the cars away. 2 formation laps, of course, in the DTM. And my producer just telling me how many spectators are here. I didn't catch the figure, truthfully. Did you catch the figure?
102,000 this weekend. That is phenomenal.
102,000.
Wow.
Okay, let's bring you the starting grid in full. René Rast from pole position, Thomas Preining going from P2 on the grid. Then we find Sheldon van der Linde and Lauren Heinrich, P3 and P4 to the 3rd row. It's Ayhan Guven and Mirko Bortolotti. Dennis Olsen and Lucas Stolz are on the 4th row. It's P7 and P8 with Kelvin van der Linde and Frank Pereira going from P9 and 10. Marco Wittmann and Christian Engelhardt share the 6th row of the grid, and they are ahead of Clemens Schmidt and Ricardo Feller. Josef Oega and Lucas Auer are P15 and P16, with Arjun Maini and Maro Engel on the 9th row of our 14-row DTM grid. Tim Heinemann is P19, Luca Engstler is P20. It's David Schumacher and Mattia Trudi, P21 and P22, with Patrick Niederhauser and Mick Wieshofer going from P23 and 24. Thierry Vermeulen and Jack Aitken are on the 13th row of our 14-row grid, which is completed with Alessio Dell'Ada. Stand by. We are about to start the second of our formation laps, and we will be ready to race. The clock is already counting down. The driver classification, as we mentioned then, Thomas Preining by 1 point ahead of Sheldon van der Linde, who took the lead yesterday.
So this important lap, getting heat into the tyres and the brakes. You would not believe in 33.4 degrees centigrade you'd need to get heat in the tyres. Tyre warmers not allowed in DTM. This is a really important part of the race.
Absolutely, preparation is everything. Through the Challeresses then, and this is where the drivers explore the extent of track limits insofar as you dare, by getting the width of nothing more than a cigarette paper between your car and the concrete barriers. Look at this view behind as the cars line up side by side in grid formation. We're on board with Frank Pereira, Kelvin van der Linde to his left-hand side, and as you can see, cars accelerate, decelerate, accelerate, decelerate, use the brakes, try and dissipate the temperature from the brakes through the rims onto the tyres to give them the maximum grip that they possibly can at the early stages of this. The Cupra safety car then will indicate right and peel off into the pit lane. The responsibility of René Rast and Thomas Preining to control the pace of the rolling start. As we head towards the lighting gantry, it's critical that every driver passes through his grid box to make sure that there's no inaccurate grid positions. And René Rast and Thomas Preining get to the start. Sheldon van der Linde trying to deny Thomas Preining the inside line. And look at Ayhan Guven diving up the inside. He's on the inside of Thomas Preining now, and he can make P3. He's done that. He denies Thomas Preining. It's Rast from van der Linde, from Guven, from Preining then, and a little bit of nip and tuck between the two of them as they run into the Challeresses for the first time of asking.
Great start from Christian Engelhardt behind as well. He was so bold around the outside in that Porsche. We saw him coming so close to the wall. He made up a whole load of places, but it's BMW first and second already breaking away. But look at this, a challenge for third place.
Yes, absolutely, that third place challenge continuing. There you can see the number 90 car of Dennis Olsen that we ride on board with right now. This is Thomas Preining that we're on board with. And there you can see, you're quite right, that Rast and van der Linde are trying to break away. But Ayhan Guven, I was really impressed that he managed to hold on to that inside line and not do any damage going into turn number 1, which is where we are once again right now. So the two BMWs at the front, and then it is a queue of Porsches with Guven, Preining and Olsen ahead of Mirko Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde, Lauren Heinrich, Lucas Stolz and Christian Engelhardt. Great start as recorded by Brian Oliver alongside me. He completes the top 10.
Yes, and Thomas Preining didn't have the best of starts, did he? Getting mugged by Ayhan Guven. But now Guven not looking especially quick in this stage of the race. Of course, we've got a long way to go. There are tyre changes to come, depending on what rubber they're starting with. Now a challenge from Dennis Olsen to the inside.
Dennis Olsen really looking very lively here and trying to get past his brand mate, Thomas Preining, flashing his lights, and here comes Marco Wittmann. Is that Christian Engelhardt that he's alongside? And Marco Wittmann going through on Christian Engelhardt then. Marco Wittmann buoyed by the tens of thousands of his supporters that are here this weekend. And who's this coming up the inside in the Lamborghini then? Keep an eye on that going into this turn.
Oh, and it's Frank Pereira that was on the Lamborghini, goes to the inside into the corner and makes that position up. Yeah.
Done that really, really well. So Rast, who's built a 6/10 margin over Sheldon van der Linde, but the big gap is between van der Linde and Ayhancan Guven, which is like 2 seconds, 2 clear seconds. So all the cars running off the tarmac and onto the paved area, as you can see. And, well, Thomas Preining under a bit of pressure from his brand mate, Dennis Olsen, and both of them are under a bit of pressure from Mirko Bortolotti and also Kelvin van der Linde, who, as I mentioned, wants to right the wrongs of yesterday. René Rast looking completely and totally untroubled. I remind you that there is a mandatory pit stop to come in the DTM as well. So as if the drama needed unfolding anymore, there are other things thrown into the mix. We ride on board with Mauro Engel right now, who is running in P13. This is Ricardo Feller, and well, at the moment it's all been a touch wood, and not wishing to add any commentators' curses on anything, it's all been very, very clean and tidy.
It's interesting that Sheldon van der Linde has been quicker than leader René Rast. They are, of course, not only brand mates, but also teammates. Schubert Motorsport, BMW for both drivers. So it'll be interesting to see if there are any orders. I can't believe there will be. They'll be able to race each other. The pit stop might be very, very crucial when they come in for that.
You're absolutely right. Now, there's a bit of a gap breaking away from P11, which is Marco Wittmann at the moment, before you then get back to Frank Pereira, who we're on board with now. And the car that you can see really trying to reel in Frank Pereira is the Mercedes of Mauro Engel. Christian Engelhardt is right behind him. We go on board with Mauro Engel now, heading down towards this turn. And here's Mauro Engel's team radio.
Pereira changed direction like 3 times on the straight.
So he, I think, was complaining about some weaving going on from Frank Pereira ahead of him.
Yes, he was, and of course only allowed one change of direction when under braking into a corner, so he clearly believes that that hasn't happened. But now Mauro Engel still continuing on, and just look and see what position he's in. He is in 13th place, and Frank Pereira is in front of him. So Pereira is past Engel and trying to break away, but Engel is clearly unhappy with that situation.
Christian Engelhardt is under pressure now from Ricardo Feller. Here's Ricardo Feller diving out of the slipstream of Christian Engelhardt now as they run down to the turn. And is this going to be a slam dunk? I really rather think not, because the inside line is so critical through that turn. But Ricardo Feller goes to the switchback now and tries to get underneath, but hasn't achieved that. But you can see Ricardo Feller is quite obviously quicker. It's all very well being quicker than the car in front. You're not in front of the car in front of you. You've got to find a way by as well, and that's awfully tricky, particularly here at the Norisring, where any mistake will not be forgiven. You will be crunched by either Armco or concrete barriers.
Of course, Ricardo Feller won last time out at Zandvoort, and he's very much on the crest of the wave. He's in the championship hunt, third coming into this race, but he does need to move forward. He needs consistent point scoring. He's got the pace, but he is in the traffic, and as already said, getting past here is not the work of a moment. He's got to pick them off one by one. It's Porsche versus Audi, the 99 car of Christian Engelhardt just in front of him, and in the 14th place, so very low down in the point standings at the moment in this race. Looking at a replay of the start, looked like everybody went across the correct grid positions this time.
Absolutely, it's important that you run through your grid boxes. Now we're on board with Thomas Preining here, who tucked himself in behind Sheldon van der Linde, then was really rather forced to go to the outside line by Ayhancan Guven, although I don't think there was any contact between the two of them, and Ayhancan goes through to pick up that P3 place, which is where he stays. And may I just say, he's narrowing the gap to van der Linde and René Rast as we speak. Here we can see it from the angle here. Now, going through this turn, it's a pinch point. It is a funnel, as you can see, when you've got 27 of these awesome DTM machines trying to make their way through there. Well, it's always a heart-in-the-mouth moment, if I'm honest with you. We've seen lots and lots of incidents over the years there. Thankfully, today, everything clean and tidy. Marco Wittmann is chasing down Lucas Auer at the moment. Lucas Auer running in P10, and Marco Wittmann running in P11. So there is the Christian Engelhardt car.
Iron Guven is, in fact, the fastest man on the track. The fastest lap of the race so far of 49.6. The last lap by our race leader was a 49.7, so a tenth faster. You can see visibly that he is closing in on Sheldon van der Linde. So Guven, the man on a mission. Now, it might be that he started the race on fresher rubber than Sheldon van der Linde. Of course, we have a tyre change. Tyres are limited, so they've got to use new tyres and used tyres in the race, and it might be that Guven is going first. Here's Ricardo Feller challenging Christian Engelhardt, under braking, and a bit of a wobble from Christian Engelhardt, but he keeps it all together as he hits the curb, stays in front, but Ricardo Feller looking more and more impatient.
Yeah, he's going for it one lap, then relaxing for a lap. Relaxing, if that's the word. Easing for a lap, and then going for it all over again. And thus far, though, has not been able to find his way by his Sheldon's team radio.
Guven in your back is pretty quick.
Probably Sheldon was aware of that.
Pretty quick.
Yeah, Iron Chan is looking, and I picked up on the fact that the gap had narrowed earlier on, and sure enough, it's narrowing even more now. So, Sheldon van der Linde, whilst I'm not absolutely convinced that he was really mounting a meaningful attack on René Rast at any point, what he will have to do is start defending. Now, I said earlier on, when it came to our grid presentation, that I said René Rast has got a real rear gunner here in Sheldon van der Linde. And that's also the case because, as you can see, now the gap is naturally elongating between René Rast and Sheldon van der Linde. Part of that is the fact that Sheldon van der Linde has got to have a weather eye on the rearview mirrors because that's where Iron Guven is filling his vantage point.
Yeah, and at the risk of repeating myself, don't forget Sheldon van der Linde is carrying 20 kilos of ballast compared to yesterday, and René Rast is also carrying 10. So Iron Guven will know that. He will know this is his opportunity. Still looking at Lauren Heinrich there, just ducking out of the queue. He's behind Kelvin van der Linde. Lucas Stoltz there as well. This is incredibly close. Anything could happen here as we look at Lauren Heinrich, currently in 8th place. Closing in on 7th place, Kelvin van der Linde. He in turn has Mirko Bortolotti in front of him. It looks like they're all compressing in that area of the track.
Yes, it's becoming something of a three, almost four-way fight now, isn't it? They come off the tarmac onto that paved concrete area, which is banked by a degree or so. It gives you a bit of a lift, really, coming out of there, assuming that you've not kissed the concrete wall. And Kelvin van der Linde doing a good job at the moment, but he's just got to be absolutely pinch perfect in trying to overtake Mirko Bortolotti. And I think Kelvin van der Linde is closer to Bortolotti than he has been for the last couple of laps. He's going to have a try going into turn number 1. Let's hold on and see here. Here comes Kelvin van der Linde, inside, outside. Well, Mirko Bortolotti did a good job of making that Lamborghini even wider than it really is, and metaphorically stuck his elbows out there, and Kelvin van der Linde was denied, but will he have another go going into the Cholereses? I think he's got the pace here, but again, at the risk of repeating myself, you know, it's all very well having the pace. You've got to find a way by, and here at Norisring, it's not so easy, truthfully, and you've got to be absolutely committed to it. Here's Lucas Howes, Team Radio.
Both cars behind you are under investigation. Both cars behind you are under investigation.
So the investigation from Pereira and Marco Wittmann are under investigation for an incident between them. Also, car 94 Frank Pereira has had a black and white flag for forcing car 11 off the track. So the investigation hasn't turned into a penalty, but there it is there. You could see being moved over by Frank Pereira, Marco Wittmann having to get on the brakes, and that was the investigation, but there is no penalty incoming at the moment. And oh, that is gonna be a bit of a Code Brown moment when you see the fence coming towards you like that. He had to back out of it. That was not good at all. I don't know if Frank Pereira was a little bit unsighted. Well, he was unsighted to Frank Pereira, but a very, very close incident there between the two cars. But despite that radio message you just heard, no penalty has been awarded. Just a warning at this time.
And I think that's the right thing to have done, to be honest. There was nothing malicious there. It was just one of those things. Here comes Kelvin van der Linde again, just sighting where he can try and have a go here. We're, what have we got? 47 minutes of the race remaining, so still a long way to go, but you want to pick them off as quickly as you can. This is Ricardo Feller, and Ricardo Feller is running further down the order than he would like, and chasing down that car of Christian Engelhardt, the Porsche that you can see through the windscreen, which was the onboard image that we were able to give you.
Yeah, and they are chasing the last remaining point, running for 15th place at the moment. Well, Feller's in 15th, Engelhardt in 14th, so all the way down the field. But when you see the likes of Christian Engelhardt and Ricardo Feller struggling to even stay in the points, you can see how competitive this is. Ricardo Feller, though, looking the quicker of the two. The Porsche has been very much the weapon of choice this season, but it feels a little bit like the weight is starting to swing. Now Ricardo Feller puts the pressure onto Christian Engelhardt. He's got no one behind him, so he can challenge without risking letting someone else through.
This is very interesting. Sven Stopper has decided that new evidence regarding car number 94 means the black and white flag has been rescinded. You don't very often see that. So Frank Pereira deemed not to have needed a black and white flag. It's all academic anyway because it's only a warning, but even so, they have decided that actually, in light of new evidence that's been posted up, they have decided that no warning flag was necessary for Frank Pereira.
This is Clemens Schmid in the number 63 car, currently in 16th place. Luca Engstler looking to the inside. Engstler, who didn't have the best of days yesterday, now challenging hard. But behind him is Arjun Maini, another driver who is having another season in DTM. And it's Clemens Schmid in the Lamborghini at the front of that queue at the moment. Luca Engstler, though, putting the pressure on in the Audi. It is the battle for 16th place, so no points there. And just ahead of them is this fight that we've just seen, Christian Engelhardt and Ricardo Feller.
Arjun Maini.
Now Maini's through.
He is through. The wrong-footed Luca Engstler saw the inside line and then sent it to the inside. Luca could do nothing about that, so now Arjun Maini is... well, he's adopting the battle rules of Luca Engstler was carrying out just a few moments ago, and he will try and propel Clemens Schmid into making a mistake and try and find a way by a way that was denied by Luca Engstler.
Well, this
is Ricardo Feller. I mean, sorry, Brian, but he is lap after lap after lap. He's tried to find a way past Christian Engelhardt, and he hasn't done it.
With the Clemens Schmid situation, it was exactly what we were saying, that you can make a challenge to somebody. If it doesn't stick, you can end up getting railroaded. Team Radio, Thomas Preining.
Okay, Tommy, how is it going? You're stuck behind Güven, you can confirm?
Yes, copy.
Copy. Keep going. We are considering plans.
So strategies being looked at, being considered. Thomas Preining not able to make much of Eindjan Güven at the moment, who in turn has not got as close to Sheldon van der Linde as I thought he might over the last couple of laps. Let's ride on board with Thomas Preining now. There you can see the battle ensuing ahead of him, and I'll tell you what, just as I said, Eindjan Güven has not got as close to Sheldon van der Linde as I thought he would have done. He does get close now, and so does Kelvin van der Linde here. So Kelvin van der Linde in this somewhat sandwich position, isn't he? With Mirko Bortolotti at the front and Lauren Heinrich behind.
Thomas Preining is now the fastest man on the track at 49.596. We are getting close, 3.5 minutes to the pit window opening, and I wonder whether they're going to pull Preining in early to try and do the undercut on Eindjan Güven.
Yeah, I would have thought that would, if I was chief strategist, which quite clearly I would never be, but that is something that I would be looking at as well. So it's Rast from van der Linde, from Güven, Preining, Olsen, Bortolotti, van der Linde, Heinrich, Stolz and Auer. They are the top 10 in this DTM Race 2 of 2 here at the Norisring.
Another black and white flag has been shown to Alessio Delida for forcing car 69 into the wall, 69 being Thierry Vermeulen. So fighting at the back of the pack, here goes Feller.
So Ricardo Feller to the outside. He's going to carry a lot of speed here, and too much speed, and runs wide. He was never going to get that car rotated, and sure enough, a valiant effort, but a valiant effort that went the wrong way.
An interesting one of the Lamborghinis behind doing exactly the same thing, just can't get the car slowed down. Here we go again, under braking, he's on the outside line, takes too much speed in, cannot slow it down. Christian Engelhardt knows exactly what he's doing there, just hugs the curb, has the racing line, and Ricardo Feller is hung out round the outside and loses a whole load of space. This is it. You can see the concentration in his eyes. You'll probably see the disappointment in his eyes any second now. He rejoins, but Christian Engelhardt has now opened up a bit of a gap. Was he actually shaking his head in disbelief?
He was. And the thing is, when you're up against Christian Engelhardt, let's be honest, we've known him for a lot of years. He's a wily old character, and he knows precisely where to position the car. And he knew exactly what was going to happen. Wasn't fazed by that at all, and just carried on and wasn't bothered, knew that he would never be able to make it stick, and indeed he didn't. So the René Rast lead is up to 1.4 seconds. His rear gunner Sheldon van der Linde is ahead of Arjen Guven. Then there's Thomas Preining, who I think will be one of the first to pit. We're on board with Marco Wittmann right now, who's got Luigi Auer ahead of him. And Lucas Auer then in the Mercedes, Marco Wittmann in the BMW. It's 22 versus 11. And here is Lucas Auer, and Marco Wittmann is getting quite close to Lucas Auer here, and you can see that over the last 3 laps, the evolution is such that Marco Wittmann is quicker. Oh, brilliant splitter cam that we were able to watch there as Marco Wittmann very nearly into the back of the Lucas Auer Mercedes, but he's too good a driver to make contact, and his braking force was sufficient to avoid any touching between the two of the cars, whether appropriate or inappropriate. So there is Lucas Auer. Bear in mind that Lucas is running P10, Marco Wittmann running P11, and Marco Wittmann trying to look wherever he can, but the inside line, which is also always very, very attractive through either of the 2 turns, is absolutely fine, but the angle of rotation is such that you lose momentum when you're coming out, and that's when you need the torque and the power and the grip and the speed.
Well, we're on board with Marco Wittmann, and while this has been going on, just behind them, Frank Pereira and Mauro Engel have been closing in. This is soon going to become a 4-way battle for that 11th, 10th place. So Lucas Auer, clearly not the quickest of the 4, but see the 2 yellow cars behind, they are closing in. I think Mauro Engel is looking very rapid indeed.
Pit window is open now. Who is going to be the first to dive into the pit lane? Brian and I are considering that Thomas Preining might be one of the first. It's not on this lap, as you can see, because he's past the pit entry. And the pit window is open for 20 minutes. Remind us of regulations, Brian. They have to go in and tyres are changed and then come out again, but of course only a certain number of staff are allowed to work on the car.
Yes, only a certain number of mechanics are allowed to work on the car, and also no tyre warmers. There's a pit lane speed limit, and keeping to that now, in comes Clement Schmid and Yusuf Vega. So 2 cars taking advantage of an early stop. Both of them were down towards the back of the field anyway, 23rd and 24th. So into the pits they come, ready for their mandatory stop.
It was probably worth rolling the dice, wasn't it? So for those 2 drivers to come in early for this mandatory pit stop and get them in and done and away again and see what they can make of the race before the 39 minutes that remain is up.
Just to confirm what you were asking, it is a maximum of 16 members who can carry out the pit stop. One of them has to solely operate the air lance, one of them has to work the lollipop, and one of them solely has to receive or present wheels in the area between the pits and the working lane. So very tightly restricted as Marco Wittmann comes into the pits, as does Frank Pereira.
So there you have it, chapter and verse then, how the pit stops have to be, and it's always the back wheels that go first before the fronts. I would say that was not an especially quick time, but it was slick, and as you can see, Marco Wittmann out just ahead of Tim Heinemann coming in, who parks his car in the box now, and the number 94 car of Pereira on its way out. So the TalkSport WRT team go to work on the Tim Heinemann car. And from sim to DTM, from garage to pit lane, he's on his way back out again. In the meantime, and of course, when those cars return back out on track, Luke Yao coming in now for his mandatory pit stop.
He needed it.
The tyres are not going to be pre-warmed. So when they come out on track, they're very vulnerable because they've got to bring the tyres up to temperature.
I think judging by his pace prior to the stop, I reckon Auer was probably on fairly old rubber, and there's probably some fairly fresh stuff going on now. So he comes into the pits. That'll be a great relief to the drivers that were trying to get past him. None more so than Mauro Engel, Christian Engelhardt, Lucas Stokes was there as well. So he rejoins a little bit further back, so he will now go all the way to the checkered flag. He comes out just in front, or make that just behind René Rast, our race leader. So he loses a lap to the leader. Of course, they've all got to come in. Sheldon van der Linde still in second. Arjen Guven still menacing all the way. We said Preining was going to come in early. That's exactly what he's done.
So now Thomas Preining comes in, then they need to make this pinpoint accurate, and the Manthey team normally do a very good job. Look at this, smooth, sophisticated, slick, On you go, Thomas Preining. That was a pretty impeccable stop.
It was. It is so well rehearsed. They spend hours and hours rehearsing this, and in Thomas Preining's pit, we've seen 2 races where it's been significantly harmed his chances because of pit stops. That's David Schumacher, and is that Matthias Drudy, or is it, no, it's Patrick Niederhauser in the other of the Orange 1 cars. They rejoin right in front of the Porsche. No damage, but Thomas Preining, well, you can see Schumacher's damaged. But Preining was definitely compromised there, so he got the pit stop done this time, unlike yesterday, but now he has a compromised exit.
Sheldon van der Linde is in, so too. I think there's Ian Changu that's coming.
Yes.
So this will be a race in the pit stops then. So they go to work on the Sheldon van der Linde car.
I think this is going to be Sheldon van der Linde trying to do the undercut on Rene Rast. He's going to want to get out onto some open track, put some hot laps in. That is Ian Changuven in the background, also into the pit lane, so he remains behind Sheldon van der Linde, as you would expect. But great stop from the Schubert Motorsport team.
I agree with you, yes. And as you say, they rehearse and practice that, don't they? So now those cars are out on cold tyres. And there's Ian Changuven, and who is that lurking at the back of the picture that we could see? Very, very interesting. Let's see how Sheldon van der Linde, he tries to put some aggression through those tyres and be as physical as possible to really build the heat in there. Because he's that Thomas Preining right behind him. You can see him weaving from side to side is Sheldon van der Linde.
Yeah, I mean, Sheldon van der Linde there, we're riding on board with, that was Thomas Preining we were on board with, wasn't it?
Thomas Preining.
Up with Sheldon van der Linde.
So Thomas Preining needs to get by Sheldon van der Linde if he possibly can. However, Sheldon van der Linde now has gradually built the temperature into those tyres, and you could almost see that the BMW was able to pull away from the Porsche a little bit there. It was absolutely critical that his tyre warm-up phase. And Thomas Preining just taking a look at the inside, but Sheldon van der Linde closes the door now. If Thomas Preining could get good acceleration out, but he couldn't. He needed to be to the inside, and he hasn't been able to do that. So, well, it was wise to bring Preining in early on.
Yeah.
He would have loved to have got by Sheldon van der Linde as well, but he hasn't been able to do that. But what it has meant is that Sheldon van der Linde, he was just able to warm those tyres up, being unhindered, as Thomas Preining now taking a look, and again, loving riding on board with Thomas Preining here, who is as close to Sheldon van der Linde as close can be. If you think they get close to the concrete barriers, it's as naught in comparison to how close they get to the car in front. You can see Sheldon still warming up here. Thomas Preining is going to go inside, outside. He's choosing the outside line, but Sheldon is going to have the optimum line, but he's going to go for the switchback now, but again, just can't get the power down.
And just behind, there's Dennis Olsen, also on Ian Changuven. So Dennis Olsen to the inside, he makes the move stick. The Mantar EMA team did a great stop on both of their cars, but now Ian Changuven comes back, and Olsen, a little bit of a slide on as he goes off the racing line. He holds it all together, but it's very much as you were. But both of the Mantar EMA cars looking good. Race leader into the pits.
So the Rast is released, the Rast, Rene Rast to his friends. The Rast, how dare I say that? Sorry, Rene. Right, he's out now. Where is Sheldon?
Sheldon, here he is, just coming across the start-finish line
now. Look where Preining is.
Yes, Preining lining him up for the move. He knows this is his best opportunity in the race. He ducks to the inside into the corner, but Sheldon shuts the door, carrying that extra weight.
He's done it.
Drag race out of the corner. No, Sheldon holding on to that position, but for how long?
I'll tell you what, Sheldon is looking very vulnerable here. Thomas Preining has got the bit proverbially between his teeth here, and that bit is Sheldon van der Linde. This all playing into the hands nicely of Rene Rast, who's able to escape up the road unhindered by the hard-charging Sheldon van der Linde, because his rearview mirror is full of the all-yellow car of Thomas Preining. Preining going for it again.
And he has been given a warning, a black and white flag to Sheldon van der Linde for more than one change of direction. So the race steward believes he's been a little bit too defensive against Thomas Preining. I should think that Thomas Preining is steaming inside that car because he desperately wants to get past the BMW.
Mad, I was livid. So here is Thomas Preining looking at the inside. Now, this is where you need the traction, and Sheldon van der Linde knows precisely where to place the car. And let's take a look at this. And that was the Schumacher, and who was it? The
Niederhauser.
Patrick Niederhauser and Schumacher incident.
Yeah, and Schumacher's out of the race, obviously a lot of damage. Let's have some team radio.
What a fucking idiot, honestly, this fucking Schumacher.
Right, apologise for the colourful language from Patrick Niederhauser, who feels quite rightly that he was unjustly somewhat nerfed off stock car fashion by David Schumacher. It certainly wouldn't have been malicious. It just looked like David was a little bit later on the brakes than perhaps he should have been. It's one of those racing incidents. But once again, apologies there. Now, this is bad news, or that was bad news.
Yeah, Ayhancan Guven, there was a problem there with the pit stop, so he lost a load of time. And now Dennis Olsen once again challenging for that position of Ayhancan Guven.
That was the replay of what you picked up earlier when he was sliding.
Yes, and it all came about as a result of that pit stop that just didn't go as smoothly as rehearsed. Rehearse it so many times, and then when you need it most.
Look at this. Sheldon van der Linde and Thomas Preining are continuing this ridiculously close battle, and all of a sudden we've got a backmarking car in the mix as well. How is that going to play into this? So Sheldon van der Linde up against the Ferrari 296 GT3 and Thomas Preining. Well, Sheldon van der Linde is going to have to get past this car pretty darned quickly, if I'm honest with you. Here comes Thomas Preining, and there is... well, that's quite a battle that's developing as well. There's lots going on, and Kelvin van der Linde's out there on his own.
Yeah, so he hasn't stopped yet. So Kelvin van der Linde, Ricardo Feller, Matthias Judy, Alessa Delida, and Jack Aitken all yet to stop. The leading stopper is Rene Rast in 6th place. Of course, that will all change once this leading 6 cars come into the pit. Still, the fighting rages on. That looks like Lauren Heinrich and one of the Mantar EMA cars of Dennis Olsen still fighting for position.
Thomas Preining then and Sheldon van der Linde have got past that car. I thought that might play into the hands of Thomas Preining, but it wasn't to be.
Yes, Thierry Vermeulen, the backmarking car, the Ferrari, still struggling today. Neither he nor... No, he has pitted, but Jack Aitken hasn't for his mandatory stop. Now running side by side into the corner. It's a drag race. Porsche versus Porsche. Lauren Heinrich and Dennis Olsen. It's Heinrich who has the line at the moment under braking. Now Olsen has the line into the corner. Heinrich can't slow it down. Goes deep. And suddenly he's relegated the position.
Well, Dennis Olsen then was the wiser of the two, perhaps there. Car number 24 is under investigation for spinning your wheels on the air jack, which is absolutely not allowed. So strife there for Ayhancan Guven. And you could see why he did that, because he was frustrated. And Kelvin van der Linde is released from his mandatory pit stop now. So he is on his way over the line. He can give it full beans. And whoa, car number 24 is getting a penalty lap for spinning his wheels on the air jack. So that is Ayhancan Guven. That's going to be a real problem for Ayhancan.
Oh, he's been so quick all race long, and that is going to drop him quite a long way back. I mean, it's the equivalent to adding about 5 seconds onto a lap time. Meanwhile, Ricardo Feller is one of the only cars now that hasn't pitted. He is leading the way. Ricardo Feller still yet to get into the pits. He's still got 8.5 minutes to think about it.
And think about it, he will. Marco Wittmann we ride on board with now through the S's here. And Marco Wittmann then chasing down the Frank Pereira car ahead of him. And ahead of Frank Pereira then is the car of Lucas Auer then, who is currently running out there in P15. Here comes Kelvin van der Linde. So you can see Kelvin van der Linde there, and the car of Ayhancan Guven, car number 24, got to serve a penalty lap. I don't know whether he's done that yet and whether that's brought him into the clutches of Kelvin van der Linde. I really rather think no, he turns, he indicates now and goes into that. And how many places does he lose? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places potentially.
Ouch! Around here, that really hurts, doesn't it? He had to serve that quickly. You can't pass the start-finish line more than once more after you've been awarded that penalty lap. So you had to get on and do it. He couldn't wait until they were more spaced out. So that's really hurt Ayhancan Guven.
Yes, it has. And here we can see
that's Sheldon van der Linde
and Thomas Preining.
Yeah, it is. So Preining did.
Sheldon left the door open.
Yeah. But he's still in front at the moment, so he got back in front. This is the view from on board with Thomas Preining. It was a big gap. Getting the BMW slowed down was clearly a problem for Sheldon van der Linde. Now the timing screens have updated. Thomas Preining is up into 4th place, so Sheldon van der Linde heading in the wrong direction.
Well, that was really interesting because well, here comes Kelvin van der Linde, and sorry, I was just trying to, having looked at that replay, it really looked like Sheldon just left the door open, which he doesn't make mistakes like that.
But again, he's got the weight, he's got old tyres, and you've got to slow that car down. It's a big job to slow it down. It is really heavy braking here at the Norisring. To the inside goes Lauren Heinrich, Kelvin van der Linde just in front of him. So this fight continues on. Feels like it's been on for ages. Dennis Olsen in there as well. Olsen in 10th place. Make that 11th because Lauren Heinrich has now worked his way through. And here's a replay of that.
Oh, that was contact on the Kelvin van der Linde car.
Mirko Bortolotti.
Now, just wonder whether Kelvin closed the door. Well, he certainly closed the door at that point. But just look what. We looked at it for the first time around as here comes Dennis Olsen then. Well, that was certainly meant, but you have to be physical sometimes, and I would judge that to be fair. Not that I have any reason to judge anything, but the incident between car number 3 and car number 92 is under investigation, and that was the incident we saw just a few moments ago between Kelvin van der Linde and the number 92 car of Mirko Bortolotti. On board with Ricardo Feller. And Ricardo Feller then, the incident there, confirmation of what I've just mentioned, that incident is under investigation and probably rightly so. Ricardo Feller.
He's leading the way.
He has yet to stop, one assumes.
Yes, he has yet to stop. He is one of only 3 drivers. It's Ricardo Feller, Jack Aitken and Thierry Vermeulen. So both the Ferraris staying out quite late in the race. That is a great shot of Ricardo Feller to the left of your screen. And that looks like, is that Matthias Drudy? Yes, it is. He's retired from the race.
Oh, that's a shame. So Matthias Drudy then out of the race. Here is René Rast, who is P1. Well, will be P1 when Ricardo Feller comes in for his mandatory pit stop. It'll be very interesting to see whether Thomas Preining can reel him in, Brian.
Yeah, well, he's going to be giving it everything. Of course, he is in net 2nd place, 3rd on the track, as Sheldon van der Linde now getting past the back-marking Jack Aitken. So you have to wait a long time before you hear that phrase very often, Jack Aitken being lapped by the BMW, but that is the case, and he will be very happy to get on the plane and head back to the UK, I should think. But Sheldon van der Linde working through the traffic, and Thomas Preining and René Rast ahead of him. Ricardo Feller yet to stop. Once the stops are all done, we'll get a better idea of the gaps.
Race update. 31 laps to go. 31 laps. You're closing in. Car to the front for the lead. Gap is 1.7. 1.7.
Go get him, Thomas Preining is basically the message, isn't it? Yeah, the statistics all there for him, but Thomas has got to do the job, and that is to reel in René Rast now. So the gap then, 1.3 seconds, is it, between what is nominally P1 and P2, and there you can see the lap evolution, and Thomas Preining is quicker.
And I have to say that his lap time, 49.683 last time around, is not far off the best lap that he's already set of the race. So he is clearly the fastest man. He's certainly quicker than René Rast, who's ahead of him, currently at 49.999 last time around. So quite a bit faster than René Rast is Thomas Preining.
What's going to hamper René Rast is backmarking traffic as well. He's got to dispose of those cars as quickly as he possibly can. So here comes Thomas Preining now. Thomas Preining disadvantaged? No, he goes straight through and right onto the coattails of René Rast then. This is going to be a fight for P1 between René Rast and Thomas Preining. Ricardo Feller is still out there and going around the track, but Ricardo Feller has got to come in and take his stop. So that's why we're concentrating on this battle, because it will eventually become the lead battle. It is Rast, Preining, Sheldon van der Linde, and then Mirko Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde. So René Rast then, when it comes to defending positions, there's not many better than René Rast. He knows how to do that, but Thomas Preining is, well, he is absolutely determined and razor sharp as well. It's going to be a very, very interesting fight between these two for perhaps just under 23 minutes of racing that we have remaining. René then positioning the car perfectly in the middle of the track. To be honest, don't think Thomas Preining was quite close enough to really even think about having a go at René then, but The Porsche has got the grunt out of the corners. Grunt is a technical term for, you know, the torque and the traction. He is able to really deliver that, the rear-engine car. And, of course, there's so many different car configurations in the DTM, Brian, and that's what the balanced performance is all about. It's trying to really make sure that these cars are as equally competitive as each other.
Yes, of course, the Porsche is a 4.2-litre flat-six boxer, and that's in the boot of the car. The BMW is a 3-litre straight-six. That's under the bonnet. Completely different configurations, so evenly matched. Rene Rast, well, if Preining's trying to push him into a mistake, he's going to have to try a bit harder, because I can't remember the last time I saw Rene Rast make a mistake, so he's going to have to pass him on merit, so to speak. He does look quick. He goes to the inside. Do they make contact? Onto the curb, and he muscles his way through.
Well, that was very physical and very determined. Thomas Preining, I rather think he's got something of a smile on his face. It was a bold and audacious move. I rather think that one was so bold that it might be looked at, but I don't want to prejudice anything here. Bit of damage on the Rene Rast car. It's probably a little bit of a rub on the Preining car. I would suggest he came from...
Wow.
You could see Rene trying to turn in. He could see what he was going to do. Let's listen.
He forced his way, man. Yes, keep it for this back.
Well, Rene, interestingly, the professional that he is, keeps it clean on the team radio, and he says he forced his way by. Well, it certainly was physical. We'll let the race control team decide whether it was all too physical or whether it was considered to be, nah, do you know what, that's racing. It's really exciting for us to watch, but Thomas certainly meant it. And now that he's got past the BMW, you can see the pace advantage he's got. Now, that's notwithstanding the fact that aerodynamically, certainly one side of the BMW that's running behind him possibly is not quite as streamlined as it once was.
No, there were some bits that were missing off that. In fact, you can see it there trailing on the left front of the BMW. You can see damage to that car, so that will affect it. Fortunately, it doesn't appear to be touching the rubber. Now, finally, Ricardo Feller comes out of the lead into the pits. The team's set to work. The very well-rehearsed routine by the Abt Sportsline team onto the Audi, off the air jacks, gets the wheels spinning, little puff of smoke, back out into the pit lane. Job done. Where will he rejoin in comparison to the leaders? Well, it's going to be quite a long way back, isn't it? Here he comes. Our leaders have already gone through. There was Lucas Stoltz in 11th, so he's a long way back after the pit stops.
He's going to be filter out behind Marco Wittmann, I would
15th.
suggest.
Yeah.
So, there he is, Marco Wittmann, in fairness. So the Preining Rast, is there anything on the screen?
I'm practically watching the timing screen more than I am the actual live feed. As soon as we see anything, if we see anything, but not even an investigation. So maybe Sven Stopper, our race director, has decided that was a good, clean racing move.
Yeah, maybe they're reviewing it once again. I don't know. But yeah, they normally, when they see something like that, they normally act and offer the instructions straight away, don't they? But yeah, it was hard, it was physical, but do you know what? Rene's been plenty hard in overtakes, and you know, that's why he was not so vociferous in terms of the radio message, I would suggest.
Yes, and the sad sight of the Ferraris going a lap down. On board with Mauro Engel in the number 48 car. Yeah, I think there might be a plea to the BOP board from Emil Frey before the next round starts. There was Mauro Engel, currently in 9th place. Ahead of him, Ian-Chen Guven. So that is fairly static at the moment. Lauren Heinrich a little up the road from then, and Dennis Olsen. Kelvin van der Linde currently in 5th place. So a better day for him, but not as better as he'd like it to be.
Not as better, no, you're right. There's Lucas Hauer on the back of the Lucas Stoltz car. So it's Preining leading. Now already, Brian, he's built up a margin of 1.6 seconds over the slightly battle-weary BMW of Rene Rast, and here we can ride on board with Thomas Preining in replay.
Right.
Do you know what? Having looked at that on board,
yeah.
sorry, Rene.
I mean, he used a bit of curb.
Yeah, you're seeing it from that angle. I looked at it in a different way, but it wasn't all four wheels over, was it?
It's definitely 6 to 1, half dozen the other. Clearly, Schubert Motorsport have an opinion about that, pointing at their head. That is probably a fair indication of what they're thinking.
Yeah. It was audacious, but there we are. Glad I don't make the decisions.
Same.
In fairness, as you say, nothing has happened at all. So one would assume that they're pretty happy with it. Kelvin van der Linde ahead of Dennis Olsen.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Dennis Olsen starting to look very eager behind Kelvin van der Linde. He was 5/10 last time around, but he is certainly pressing on. We're riding there with Mauro Engel, who's also working his way through the traffic now. Mauro Engel had Iron Chen Guven in front of him. Yeah, he's still there at the moment. Lots of blue and red cars on the track here, but that is the view from Jack Aitken looking back at Lucas Hauer.
Yeah, so there's Lucas Stoltz car, there's the Jack Aitken car, there's Lucas Hauer, there's the local boy, Marco Wittmann, who we ride on board with right now with the splitter cam. This is just, and the Ferraris just aren't in it today, are they? That balance of performance absolutely not working for them.
2 laps down for both the Ferraris. That is not a driver error, is it? So that's really tragic. Running last and second from last of all the runners. So there'll be a lot of head scratching and discussion to be had once this race is over. At the other end, though, Thomas Preining continues to stretch his legs, now over 2 seconds ahead of René Rast. So the battles continue further back down the order. That is Christian Engelhardt in the number 99 car. So Engelhardt, who had such a good start, now out of the points in 16th place. Team 75 under investigation for an infringement clarification, Article 33.4. I think that is a pit infringement. I'll need to look that one up, but they are under investigation. Team 75, so that'll be Lauren Heinrich.
Well, there you can see Christian Engelhardt trying to get past the Ferrari, and Christian Engelhardt does do that. That allows Lauren Heinrich to also follow the gap that he created, and Tim Heinemann, I mean. And there is Tim Heinemann, absolutely pushing now on Christian Engelhardt as they run into this turn. And there you can see the multicolored Tim Heinemann car, the all-white Christian Engelhardt car ahead, and we ride on board with Frank Pereira, and he has Marco Wittmann for company right behind him, and this is the view from the Marco Wittmann windscreen, and Sheldon van der Linde, who's running in that P3 place, his team radio.
23 laps to go. Bortolotti is picking up speed. He's 1.5 to 2 tenths quicker than you. New gap, 3 seconds.
So basically, Sheldon, that's the hurry-up call, that he is coming. Mirko Bortolotti, we can see the lap evolution over the last 3. He is definitely quicker than Sheldon van der Linde. There is the Lamborghini. You just saw it into the picture there. What have we got? 14.5 minutes plus a lap remaining for this DTM race. We're live at the Norisring. The race that's being led by Thomas Preining with René Rast P2, Sheldon van der Linde P3. If it all stays this way, it's going to be an interesting discussion when they park the cars up for the podium between Thomas and René, I would suggest. But I think by virtue of the fact that we've seen absolutely nothing on the board, that they deem it to be a fair racing move from Thomas Preining on René Rast, which, to be honest with you, I think that's how I would have called it. It was robust, Brian, but
yeah,
sometimes you have to be robust. You've been going through the legalese on our behalf.
I have. Lauren Heinrich was the fastest man on the track till just a few moments ago. Kelvin van der Linde has now eclipsed him. But the investigation is Article 33.4. In the opinion of the stewards, a driver intentionally stops his vehicle or another driver during qualifying or hindering in any way, the driver concerned will be penalised. So hindering says during qualifying. I'm just going to look at the other one that has been there, 39.9. I'll come back to you once I've got that.
Oh, thank you so much.
Right, here we go, 39.9.
This
is live. During the race, with the exception of the mechanics and the registered applicants, only persons who are visibly wearing the corresponding additional ID may be in the pit lane.
Hang on.
Unauthorised person.
It could be just a TPMS error, So if you feel the puncture, then we should box, but if not, just keep driving.
So TPS, tyre pressure sensor error then. Lucas Hauer feeling that or seeing that TPS engaged. But of course, if he does feel that the car is mishandling because of a puncture, then the sensor is not faulty and it's telling the truth. So Lucas Hauer battling then with either a technical issue or a real rubber issue.
Yeah. just to go back to that issue with Lauren Heinrich. So, potentially obstructing another car and potentially an unauthorised person in the pit lane, to summarise that. So those are the two things that have been investigated for the number 75 car. Currently running in 7th place, so Lauren Heinrich would be looking to equal his best result of the season if he can escape the wrath of the stewards.
Well, everything referred to the stewards, they will make their decision. In the meantime, Thomas Preining's extended his margin to 2.153 seconds ahead of René Rast. Then it's Sheldon van der Linde. We rode on board with Ricardo Feller, who is running down there in P14. So it is Preining from Rast, from Sheldon van der Linde, Bortolotti, Kelvin van der Linde, Olsen. Then it is Heinemann. Then it is Guven, beg your pardon, it's Heinrich, who's running P7, Ayanchen Guven, then it is Maro Engel and Lucas Stoltz. They are the top 10 for you with just under 12 minutes plus 1 lap remaining. We're on board with Marco Wittmann, who's running down there in P13. He would have so liked to have delivered more for his home crowd, but it's just not been with him today.
No, we saw him just before the race started, actually up on the tribune, psyching up the crowd, holding up banners and chatting to them. He really is a local hero, but he's not going to be taking any hero spoils here. He's struggling to even stay in the points. Meanwhile, at the front, Thomas Preining has just added another 10th onto his lead ahead of René Rast. Sheldon van der Linde 1.8 seconds, so the 1, 2, 3 fairly spaced out at the moment, as the local hero now has Ricardo Feller for company. This is the fight for 13th place. That's just a couple of points in that, and you can see that Ricardo Feller has been closing consistently on the BMW. So Ricardo Feller, no respecter of local heroes.
Absolutely not, and why would he be? So Ricardo Feller, then we're watching from being on board with the rearward mounted camera on the Marco Wittmann car, and that's a retirement. It looked like a Lamborghini to me. It's the number 6 car of Dalada.
Yeah, Dalada going back into the pit, so he's had a fairly torrid weekend anyway, and he retires the car. Not the season he had hoped for so far, but it's a long season, so hopefully he'll come bouncing back, not literally. Riding on board with Ricardo Feller, and he's staring at the back of that BMW once again. The quicker of the two cars, so Ricardo Feller lapping about a 10th of a lap quicker, but of course that's limited by the big green BMW that's in front of him.
Yes, the big green BMW of Marco Wittmann, and there you can see the number 7 car. And in the meantime, there is the number 91 car of the leading driver, Thomas Preining. The top 3 having gone through right now. Marco Bortolotti running P4, then it's Kelvin van der Linde, Dennis Olsen, then Lauren Heinrich ahead of Ayanchen Guven and Maro Engel, and Lucas Stoltz completing the top 10 in DTM Race 2 of the weekend here at the Norisring. So getting all so close to Marco Wittmann is Ricardo Feller. But Ricardo at the moment is unable to unseat the local star and guess from a using it in a public point of view and racing on it. There are not many people know these streets quite like Marco Wittmann. So Marco Wittmann doing a good job of being able to defend from Ricardo Feller, and of course in his own way he is trying to get up the road and get on terms with those other cars that are ahead as well. Marco Wittmann driving for the Project 1 team, and within sight of the Frank Pereira car as well. So Ricardo Feller that we ride on board with right now. The gap at the front is very nearly 2 seconds between Thomas Preining and René Rast, and we're into the 9th minute of the race, with a lap, of course, to come when the clock is counted down to 0.
So Rast has closed up a little on Thomas Preining. Interesting watching the Wittmann-Feller battle, both of them putting in personal best in Sector 1, so they're both pressing on really hard. Kelvin van der Linde has the fastest lap of the race, and he is up with Mirko Bortolotti. Would expect a challenge for 4th place because Kelvin van der Linde is the quicker of the two, so we've got one eye on that. But this is the closest battle on the track. Looking back from Marco Wittmann's perspective at 14th place, Ricardo Feller, both of them pressing really hard, but still no change of position.
The drivers, of course, having to drive these cars in absolutely incredible heat and to maintain it lap after lap after lap with such a short track. There is absolutely no respite for these drivers. They are on it all the time. And that is proving to be the case. Ricardo Feller now closer than ever before to Marco Wittmann as he tries to unsettle that P13 position away. So we can see from being on board with Marco Wittmann just how close under braking Ricardo Feller is able to get through him through the Scholler S's out onto the concrete paved area. He chases down Marco Wittmann. Of course, this is dragging the two of them onto the Lucas Sauer and Frank Pereira battle that is going on just ahead of them. So it becomes a four-way fight for P11.
Yes, it's slowly compressing, isn't it? We have lost 6 cars from the race so far. David Schumacher, Matthias Drudy, Clemens Schmidt, Patrick Niederhauser and Alessio Delida. I have one message from Mick Wieshofer: stop walking under ladders, because this is another non-finish for the number 19 Lamborghini. He's only had one finish so far at a DQ yesterday for failing to attend the post-race scrutineering, and he's had 3 non-classified. So Mick Wieshofer, another weekend to forget. His luck is going to turn. Such a talented young driver, but not really getting the rub of the green in DTM this year at the moment. Less than 7 minutes remaining of this race.
And the rub of the green is not what Ricardo Feller has been able to find either, as he has sat behind Marco Wittmann for longer than he would have liked to have done. René Rast and Sheldon van der Linde then, P2 and P3, and Sheldon beginning to reel in René now. That's playing into the hands of Thomas Preining.
And René is reeling in Thomas Preining as well. So all 3 are closing in on each other. This is all set to be an explosive last 6 minutes of this race. The 1, 2, 3 having been so spaced out for so long, now quite close together. René Rast is just 1.5 seconds behind Thomas Preining, and Sheldon van der Linde just 1.1 behind René Rast. So still very much all to play for. Behind them is Mirko Bortolotti, but he has got his mirrors full of Kelvin van der Linde, having to drive very much a defensive race at the moment to keep that black and white Audi behind him.
Kelvin is on something of a charge here. I've been watching the last couple of laps of Kelvin van der Linde. Now Mirko Bortolotti is, as you say, driving with one eye on the rearview mirror to try and deny Kelvin van der Linde, and here they come. Kelvin getting ever closer into turn 1 here at the Norisring and accelerates away. It's Lamborghini versus Audi, and this is for P4, P5. And there's Sheldon van der Linde getting closer to René Rast, who in turn is getting a little bit closer to Thomas Preining, but definitely the gap is narrowing the most between P2 and P3. And then it is the Bortolotti-Kelvin van der Linde fight that we're enjoying right now, and you can see Kelvin van der Linde taking a different line completely, trying to get to the inside potentially of Mirko Bortolotti, but that was not doable on that occasion. Nonetheless, what he's trying to do is psychologically really just really worry the driver ahead of him. And thus far, the driver has not been too worried, and when that driver is Mirko Bortolotti, you can understand why. He's done a few laps in his time.
He really has. The challenge still on, though, from Kelvin van der Linde. We've had 55 minutes of racing under green flag conditions, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are running all together. Make that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all running together pretty well in one shot. So incredibly close racing here in the DTM. It's still Thomas Preining at the moment. René Rast closing in from Sheldon van der Linde, Mirko Bortolotti, Kelvin van der Linde, Dennis Olsen. We've had no more news on the Laren Heinrich Team 75 pit infringement. That might be something that comes after the race. But at the moment, Heinrich in 7th, ahead of Einchan Guven. After that visit to the penalty box has really taken a little bit of the flame out of his drive, hasn't it?
But I have to say, in defence, it proves that the penalty lap works, because they want to enforce a penalty, but a drive-through penalty would have hurt a whole lot more.
Oh, well, it would have put him to the back. I mean, he would have gone a lap down probably with a drive-through penalty, so it's a race destroyer. Penalty box is a wonderful thing. When it first arrived on the scene in GT Masters a couple of years ago, I thought, oh, it's a bit of a fad, this. And then we saw it in action and we go, this is one of the cleverest things I've seen introduced in recent years in terms of stewarding.
There you go. There is Tim Heinemann. Glad you like it. I'm sure they are as well. This is Christian Engelhardt's Team Radio.
So Christian, if Tim can close the gap, you let him pass, and maybe at least he can catch Meini. If we cannot do it, maybe at least he can do it. Right now, nobody's getting points, so if he has a chance to catch Meini, then he can try.
Well, there you have it. Christian Engelhardt invited to indicate right, allow Tim Heinemann through and see if he can get on the tails of Arjun Meini.
Of course, they're both racing for TopSport WRT, and you know, good rationale. He explained it very clearly there. Yeah, we ain't going to get any points either way, so you might as well. Yeah,
kind of makes no difference, does it? So it's just on the day. Tim Heinemann has got just a little bit more pace, and as you say, you know, they are running in 17 and 16, aren't they? So There we are. What is the situation looking like? Well, Thomas Preining has broken away from René Rast again now. He's built it up to nearly 2 seconds.
Yeah, that was, it went down half a second, but maybe that was traffic. So now Thomas Preining has re-extended that lead, and it's looking very comfortable. 2.5 minutes remaining. Where did that go? There is Tim Heinemann to the inside of teammate Christian Engelhardt. So that wasn't a fight for position. And now Heinemann in front into that 16th place. It's up to him to do something, but in less than 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap, perhaps a bit of a tall order.
Yeah, I think you're right. As like Christian was going to give him an extra little boost there. I think he's so close to him. So, of course, he's trying to get the advantage of any draft off the back of that. And as we said, coming into this weekend, can't really believe that you get any benefit from a slipstream here at the Norisring, but actually the driver's saying you do get a little.
Yeah, so I didn't think there would be any, but these straights are very quick. The track is almost oval, but for the chicane. It's 2 tight hairpins joined by these straights. It is phenomenal. It's as close to NASCAR as you're ever going to get in DTM.
Yeah. There you can see Sheldon van der Linde really beginning to reel in René Rast now. But here comes Kelvin van der Linde on Mirko Bortolotti. Kelvin, you can't help but feel, has been probably a little bit frustrated, stuck behind Mirko Bortolotti. But it's because Mirko is doing a very good job, Brian, in defending his position. Here comes Kelvin now, just taking a look at the inside. He knows that time is running out. We're into the final minute and a half plus a lap of this DTM race, and this is the fight that we're watching for P4 on the Lamborghini and Audi. They're really pushing very, very hard, and Dennis Olsen would quite like to buy into that party as well, but I think he's just a little bit too far back. Let's listen to Tom's team radio now.
3 more laps, 3 more laps. Yep, 1.7, 1.7. Bring it home, mate, bring it home.
Well, that's an old message, because it's 2 seconds now, so he's doing exactly what they said. Just hold the gap, bring it home. Well, he said, I'll open up the gap a bit if I will.
Yes, fair point. Right, there's Rast, there's van der Linde. Now, the other van der Linde, Kelvin, desperately trying to find a way past Mirko Bortolotti, but what he's tended to do, he's had a couple of laps of real aggressive trying, then he's eased off for a lap. He's running out of time here. And Dennis Olsen is getting closer, and Dennis Olsen in turn is being pushed by Lauren Heinrich. And as I say, the time is beginning to run out for these drivers who are trying to here is Kelvin van der Linde, look, taking a completely different line to Mirko Bortolotti. But Bortolotti is such a clever driver. He knows exactly where to position that car. Kelvin then dives to the inside, but that inside line is protected by Mirko Bortolotti, and there's Thomas Preining's dad watching on in the garage there. Had a cup of coffee with him probably a year ago today, and here Thomas Preining leading the race quite comfortably over René Rast then by some 2 seconds. So Thomas Preining for the Mante EMA team, and we ride on board with Thomas Preining, who, to the best of my calculations, is about to start his final lap. As if that were needing confirmation, there's the board.
Brilliant stuff from Thomas Preining. Kelvin van der Linde, you still see him there. Can you believe 6 races into the season and 6th place is his best result so far?
I can't believe it.
He really would love to relieve Mirko Bortolotti of that 4th place, but unless something goes wrong in half a lap, a podium is out of the question.
Big gap between P1 and P2. It's Thomas Preining from René Rast from Sheldon van der Linde. So Thomas Preining then, he got to the P1 place with quite a bold move on René Rast, but no bolder than René would have put on him, in my opinion, and I'm sure that René will feel that that actually is probably quite correct. So Thomas Preining then with just some meters of tarmac to do now before he will head to the checkered flag, and Thomas Preining then takes the checkered flag and wins. Thomas Preining from René Rast from Sheldon van der Linde, then it's Mirko Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde, who takes P5, then it's Olsen, Heinrich, Guven, Engel and Stoltz. Ah yes, Thomas Preining is pretty happy.
Yes, boys! Finally, first ever win in DTM. Welcome.
So we can now say,
superb driving, good maneuvers, well done, mate. So please, maximum fuel safe and grab pickup.
6 races, 6 different winners. Porsche, the first brand to finally win 2 races this season. That's how competitive it is. We've got to race 6 before we've had our first repeat brand winner. And but still, the first-time winners this year keep on coming. Thomas Preining, of course, who took Porsche's first ever win in DTM last year, now adding to that here at Norisring once again.
Yeah. It was great to watch, wasn't it? So a lot going on during the course of that DTM race, and the flamboyance from the marshals here as they wave their flags with abandon and add to the colour and the spectacle and the hundreds of thousands of spectators as we get confirmation of the result. Thomas Preining taking the win from René Rast and Sheldon van der Linde. Then it was Mirko Bortolotti and Kelvin van der Linde ahead of Dennis Olsen, Lauren Heinrich P7, Einjan Guven P8, Maro Engel P9, and Lucas Stoltz completing the top 10. They were ahead of Lucas Auer, Frank Pereira, Marco Wittmann, Ricardo Feller, Arjun Maini, Tim Heinemann, Christian Engelhardt, Josef Oega, Luca Engsler, Jack Aitken, and Thierry Vermeulen. So the cars are parked up then, and the race laps for Wells in Africa. The donation, €28,368. The Be Water mission powered by BWT. The race laps for Wells in Africa as all the cars park up. I really, really would like to see the embrace between Thomas Preining and René Rast, and just see. In the drivers' classification, it means now Thomas Preining's got 10-point margin over Sheldon van der Linde. So Preining making his way out of the car right now for P1. And, steady on, second go. Gets to the top of the car. Well done, Thomas Preining. His dad's in the area already to congratulate him. Sheldon van der Linde offering his congratulations to him. And René just surveying the damage down the left-hand side of the BMW. And just taking a look.
Yeah, I'll cut out that one.
It might need more than a chamois, to be fair. So all in German, of course. So regrettably, with our language skills not so good and not able to quite understand what Thomas is saying. But yeah, congratulated, and there the hands device and crash helmet is off. And rather think for a moment or two that Thomas might not be on René's Christmas card list. I know. I'm sure that when René reviews that, he'll think, do you know what? Yeah. Maybe I would have done the same. There's René.
He's probably given just as good over the years himself. You know, you go for gaps, the old Senna quote about going for gaps and all the rest of it. That's exactly what you do when you're a racing driver, isn't it?
One of the photographers, Willem, there, who was about to take the photograph of René Rast. There is Thomas Preining. And podium, of course, will be readied. And let's take a look at it again. Oof. I really think that's 6 of one and a half, a dozen the other, because I think René looked and thought,
Do you know what? If the stewards...
Let's go down to Verena now.
All right, and now I've got the man who started in P3 and ended in 3rd place. Congratulations, Sheldon. You're 2nd in the championship now, and you just mentioned it's a hot race. You need to take a deep breath, but how does it feel?
Yeah, it's very hot. A lot hotter than yesterday. So the race was naturally very tough to just manage not only the brakes, but also the energy from myself. Just try to put the air conditioning on full and try and manage myself all the way to the end. Quite surprised with the pace actually now on the race at the end. Was coming closer to the front too, even though they were probably managing at the end. So yeah, it is what it is. Very happy with the podium. Did not expect that, like I said.
And also with the podium going into the next race, Nürburgring in 4 weeks, I guess that gives you a good feeling.
Yeah, the whole team. I mean, to drive a double podium here in Norisring is something special. So really, hats off, even though I don't have one on. Hats off to them. They're doing a super job, and pit stops again was good. Everything just flows well. This has been our weekend, yeah?
All right, thank you so much, Sheldon. Back to you.
Yes, hats off, even though I don't have one on my head at the moment. And there you can see the congratulations to Thomas Preining.
What I was about to say, just before we get to Verena, was, You're going to do the classic. I'll tell you later.
Confirmation. Thomas Preining, René Rast, Sheldon van der Linde, the top three. Those drivers will be seen on the podium. Followed by Mirko Bortolotti, Kelvin van der Linde, Dennis Olsen, Lauren Heinrich, Ian Chan, Guven Lemauer, Engel, and Luca Stoltz. They complete the top 10 of race 2 here at the Norisring, ahead of Lucas Auer, Frank Pereira, Marco Wittmann, Ricardo Feller, Arjun Maini. Then it was Tim Heinemann, Christian Engelhardt, Josef Oega, Luca Engsler, Jack Aitken for Emil Frey Racing. They were ahead of Thierry Vermeulen. Unfortunately, we lost Alessio Delada, Mick Wieshofer, Patrick Niederhauser, Clemens Schmidt, Mattia Trudy, and David Schumacher. Sorry, what were you going to say?
So that move for the lead by Thomas Preining, we've seen it before. If there was going to be any doubt about it at all, the stewards would have flashed up onto our screens that was under investigation. There has been nothing about it, and I think that was a proper hard racing move. And René Rast can give as good as he gets, and he knows what it takes to win championships.
Frequently does.
And yeah, he knew what he was doing. Thomas Preining knew what they were doing. This is what we want to see. We don't want to see sanitized racing. We want to see elbows out, little bit of rubbing. That's exactly what DTM brings us.
Podium is where we will be bringing you to in due course. Of course, you can see the podium is being presented to Tobias Scheimann, who I think will be the presenter in charge of orchestrating the ceremony up there. He will be harrying the drivers along, and there we can see the sort of drone view almost of René Rast on the right-hand side of the picture, Sheldon van der Linde to the left, and being somewhat left out on his own there is Thomas Preining. That's better.
Yeah, good.
That's better. And that's what I would expect from professional racing
Ice
drivers.
cream! Ice cream! That's what I'd expect from a professional racing driver. René Rast is cooling down already. Send some over here, mate.
Likes his Magnums, doesn't he? Other ice creams are available, of course.
Me too.
That was a hint, if ever there was one.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't worked all weekend yet, but there we go.
Sheldon van der Linde onto the third step of the podium. Here comes René Rast, who's ditched the ice cream and heads to step 2. They were having a conversation about the little move there, and I think all's fair. And then on the top step of the podium, Thomas Preining celebrating like a good one, and jumps up to the top step and is congratulated by P3 and P2. And of course the team represented as well. A little bit more reserved, those celebrations. Dennis Olsen down there to watch the podium as national anthem time. So, time for the presentations right now. Look at those trophies. Dr. Gerd Enser, then sports president of ADAC, making that trophy presentation. The trophies here at the Norisring are something else.
Yeah, gorgeous, aren't they?
Goodness sake, don't drop it, Thomas.
Do someone a mischief.
René Rast receives his P2 trophy. Matt Brief, then the CEO of AG Europe. Of course, the Norisring weekend, always known as a speed weekend. And if you look at the trophy, you'll see that Wolfgang Schlosser's trophy, the chairman of the board from the motorsport club that arranges this event, it does say Norisring Speed Weekend on it.
Spelled correctly.
And teams receiving a trophy. That's around the wrong way, chap.
08 it says.
And there the trophies are presented. All the drivers will get together on the top step of the podium. And Tobias Scheimann, there he is. Tuck your shirt in. Photographs being taken. And then to the front of the podium that's temporary here. Thomas Preining said, it's not in your Nelly, we're doing the champers first. All a bit of a damp squib, really, because no one else was ready.
Oh, trophy's gone over. Don't break the trophy.
Okay, so there we are. Sheldon and Rene, and Thomas Preining then. And yes, the podium completed. The podium somewhat elevated here in the Norisring. Let's get super slow-mo, the top three. Sheldon van der Linde for Schubert Motorsport. Taking P2, René Rast, and let's go down to Verena as we watch these slow-mos.
And I'm here with René Rast. René, tell me your feelings about the race. You ended up on second place because there was quite a bold maneuver from Thomas Preining. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm generally happy with second place. Obviously, if somebody had told me before the weekend that I finished 2 times second, I think I would have signed it straight away. But obviously, starting from pole position, you also want to win the race. I haven't seen the move, but it felt very, very late from Thomas diving. I was already kind of on throttle when I got the hit from Thomas. I think it wasn't a very clean one, but race control decided it was okay. So probably have to drive different driving standards in the future.
But coming from second place to Nürburgring in 4 weeks, I guess, gives you a good feeling for that race weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it gives us a good boost also for the championship. I think I collected good points this weekend, and hopefully Nürburgring will be the same.
All right, thank you so much, René. And back to the commentators, and then after that, I'm going to grab Thomas Preining.
Well done. We look forward to that. Going to hear from Thomas Preining and what his version of that is. There we can see him jumping to the top step of the podium, and Thomas Preining P1 here at the Norisring. As wow, quite a lot of spectators have gone down, of course, to enjoy the podium celebrations. And as we get a replay of the start here, René Rast, of course, and Sheldon van der Linde. It's a really, really good move there from Ayhancan Guven right at the start of the race again. He's a superb starter, you know. Really is very, very good. And thankfully, all the cars through unhindered and no problems at all. We're taking a look at just some of the highlights here as Sheldon van der Linde came in for his pit stop. The dust, yes, that's right.
The roar, don't these cars sound amazing? BMW bursting back into the pit lane. Brake dust again. Wow. The distorting of the sound. They are monsters, these cars are. They sound wonderful.
And this was Sheldon van der Linde under some pressure now. The 91 car of Thomas Preining, of course, was chasing down René Rast. And eventually, when he would chase down René Rast, he would go for a move to the inside, and
that was it.
René said, I've not seen it yet, but it fell hard.
Yeah, I mean, that was the move of the race, wasn't it? It's the talking point of the race. I think that when René watches that one back, he'll go, do you know what? That was all fair and square.
These Schubert team didn't quite think the same thoughts.
And of course, Kelvin van der Linde was putting the pressure on all the way through on Marco Bortolotti, wasn't he?
Trying everything. When it reached the final lap, then in the end, Thomas Preining had got something of a 2-second gap.
Checkered flag is out. This is what we came for.
Flag is out. This is what we came for. Of course you did, to win. And win. Thomas Preining did ahead of René Rast and Sheldon van der Linde. And there, the congratulations in the garages. So, Thomas Preining, René Rast and Sheldon van der Linde, then the drivers that we've seen up there on the podium, and Thomas Preining celebrating like no other, as you can see, up on the roof of the car. He nearly didn't make it first time around. He had to have two goes at getting up there, but getting up he did. From Brian and from myself, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it, and we're going to cross to Verena once again.
What a phenomenal race weekend here at the Norisring. It was hot, also in regards to action, of course. And now we're looking forward to the Nürburgring in 4 weeks. So see you then. Here are the highlights. Do enjoy. Bye-bye.